Ilha de Queimada Grande, 35 kilometers off the coast of São Paulo, Brazil. 43 hectares of rainforest and granite, and if the Brazilian Navy catches you standing on it, you get arrested. The golden lancehead lives there and nowhere else on Earth. Roughly 2,900 of them on a patch of land smaller than most airports. 55 snakes per hectare. The second highest concentration on the planet. You have read that it is 1 snake per square meter. That would be 430,000 snakes, which is not a coincidence because 430,000 square meters is exactly how big the island is. Somebody multiplied the map by the myth. Quick thing before we go further, if you are into this, subscribe, like, and drop a comment. It genuinely helps the channel. Here is what is true, and it is stranger. The Brazilian scientists who actually worked that island will tell you that in over a century there is not one confirmed human death on it. Hold on to that. It is going to keep happening. Centralia, Pennsylvania, Valentine's Day, 1981. Todd Domboski, 12 years old, is crossing his grandmother's yard when the ground opens under his feet. He catches a tree root on the way down. His cousin, 14, hauls him out. Underneath that yard was a fire that had already been burning for 19 years. It started on the 27th of May, 1962, when the borough burned its own garbage in an abandoned strip pit and the flames found the coal seam underneath. Boreholes have read 1,350 degrees Fahrenheit down there. In 1983, the government priced out digging it up, $663 million. Congress spent $42 million moving everybody away instead, and bought out 545 homes and businesses. Centralia had 1,012 people in 1980. The 2020 census counted 5. In 2002, the post office took away the zip code. Pennsylvania says it could burn another 100 years, and in 63 years, it has not killed a single person. It killed the town instead. Lake Natron, northern Tanzania against the Kenyan border. From above, the water is blood red and the shore is bone white. The red is alive. It is pigment and bacteria growing in water. Almost nothing else survives. The lake is named after natron, the mineral the Egyptians packed into bodies to make mummies, and it does the same job here. Animals that die at the edge do not rot. The salt shuts down decay and the carcass hardens where it lies. In 2013, the photographer Nick Brandt published pictures of calcified eagles and flamingos posed as if alive. He found them already dead on the shoreline and stood them up. His words: rock hard, but not stone. In 2007, a helicopter carrying a documentary crew clipped the surface and broke apart. All 8 aboard got out and walked 4 kilometers across the salt to shore. One of them said the water was burning his eyes. And here is the part nobody expects. Around 3/4 of the world's lesser flamingos depend on that lake because it is the one place where nothing will follow them in. The Darvaza Crater, middle of the Karakum Desert, Turkmenistan, a hole 70 meters across and 30 deep, burning for somewhere between 4 and 5 decades. The story you know is that Soviet geologists drilled in 1971, the ground gave way, and they lit the gas expecting a couple of weeks of flame. There is no record of it. The archives are missing, classified, or were never written. The only Westerner who has stood at the bottom asked the local Turkmen geologists, and they told him the collapse may have been in the 60s and nobody lit it until the 80s. His name is George Koronis. In 2013, he went down in an aluminized suit, measured 400 degrees at the ground, and had 17 minutes. He came back with soil. In it were bacteria that were in no database, some of them eating the methane, and none of them in the dirt outside. Turkmenistan is putting the fire out now, and it is working. The flames are down more than 3/4, but satellites have measured the methane, and it still pours out at up to 3,000 kilograms an hour, whether the fire burns or not, which means the fire was the good outcome. The Danakil Depression, northern Ethiopia, more than 100 meters below sea level, sitting on the seam where 3 tectonic plates are pulling apart. Inside it sits Dalal, a mining settlement holding a record nobody wants. Between 1960 and 1966, it logged the highest average annual temperature ever recorded at an inhabited place on Earth. Nobody lives there now. The ground is yellow and orange and covered in pools, and those pools have been measured at pH below 0, down to -1.7 above 100 degrees Celsius. For years, the question was what lives in them, because on this planet, something always does. There are microbes and nuclear reactors and 3 kilometers underground. Then researchers ran the test properly. They put DNA into that brine and watched it. It fell apart within 2 minutes and was gone in under 30. 2 teams went back and checked it twice. The answer was nothing. Nothing lives there. On a planet where life has got into every crack, somebody found the edge of it, and it is a puddle in Ethiopia. North Sentinel Island, Andaman Sea, Indian Territory, 60 square kilometers, almost exactly the size of Manhattan. On the 17th of November, 2018, a 26-year-old American named John Allen Chow paid fishermen 25,000 rupees to take him out there to convert the people living on it. He was killed on the beach. His body was never recovered because recovering it would have meant a fight. 12 years earlier, 2 fishermen drifted ashore when their anchor slipped, and they were killed too. So you would assume these are the most hostile people alive. Except on the 4th of January 1991, an Indian government team pulled up and the Sentinelese waited out with no weapons and took coconuts from their hands. India ran a few more visits and then stopped in the late 90s on purpose. Here is why. The Great Andamanese on the islands next door numbered more than 5,000 in 1858. Today there are just over 50, not war. Measles, influenza, syphilis. The most dangerous thing about North Sentinel Island is not the arrows, it is us. And on every other island in that chain, we already won. The Elephant's Foot, Corridor 217, in the basement under reactor number 4 at Chernobyl. In April of 1986, the core melted through the floor at over 2,600 degrees, took the sand and concrete with it, ran down the pipe corridors, and set. Nobody found it until December, when 2 dosimetrists got near it that summer. Their instrument read 3,000 Roentgens an hour and broke. By the end of that year, it was putting out around 10,000 Roentgens an hour. 5 minutes beside it was a fatal dose. They tried to drill it for samples and could not because it was too hard. So in 1987, they shot it with a Kalashnikov using armor-piercing rounds to knock pieces loose. The famous photograph of a man standing beside it was taken 10 years later in 1996 by a radiation specialist named Artur Korneyev. The internet will tell you that picture killed him. The New York Times interviewed him in 2014, alive, 65 years old. It is still down there, and it is falling apart into radioactive dust. It has never killed anybody. Lake Nyos, northwest Cameroon, a crater lake, blue and quiet, farmland all around it. Nothing about it looks wrong. Underneath is a vent leaking carbon dioxide out of the magma, and 200 meters of water holding all of it dissolved. For decades. On the 21st of August, 1986, at around 9 at night, something disturbed it. We still do not know what. Roughly 1 cubic kilometer of carbon dioxide came out of solution at once. Carbon dioxide is heavier than air. The cloud was about 50 meters thick and it did not drift. It ran downhill into the valleys and filled the villages while people slept. It killed as far as 25 kilometers from the water. 1,746 people, 3,000 cattle. In the village of Nyos itself, 4 people came out alive. A farmer named Ephraim Che walked down the next morning and said there were no flies on the dead because the flies were dead too. There are 3 pipes in that lake now, siphoning the gas up in a fountain 45 meters high. It is diffused only for as long as somebody keeps them running. So here is a question for you. 7 of the 8 places on this list have killed almost nobody. The one that killed 1,746 people in a single night is a quiet blue lake with farms around it. If the deadliest places on Earth are the ones nobody goes near, what does that say about the ones we do? Drop it in the comments and tell me where to go next.